Hello everyone, welcome to the Bible classroom. I'm Miss Kathy. I'm glad you're here. Would you like to help me feed Fred? Hi Fred. Here you go. Our memory verse today is, without faith, it is impossible to please Him. For whoever would draw near to God must believe that He exists and that He rewards those who seek God. Hebrews 11:6. Let's say that together. You repeat after me. Without faith, it is impossible to please God. For whoever would draw near to God must believe that He exists and that He rewards those who seek Him. Hebrews 11:6. I wonder if Sue wants to join us today for our Bible lesson. Let's find out. Sue! Hi, Sue! Sue, we're about to do a Bible lesson. Would you like to join us? Well, Sue, I brought some things here to show you. What do you think a Lego person, a toy house, and a Bible have to do with our lesson? Well, today we're going to learn about a man who had to leave his home and trust God, and we're going to read about his story today in the Bible. So after the flood and after the Tower of Babel, people on earth started spreading out and moving away to different places. They all had families who grew up and had families, and they had families, and pretty soon great nations began to form. Today we'll learn about the beginning of another nation. There was a man named Abram who lived in the land of Ur. God spoke to him, and let's read about what God told him. In Genesis chapter 12, verse 1. Now the Lord said to Abram, "Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you." God told Abram to leave his home and go to a land that he had never seen before. Abram didn't know where he was going. God didn't give him a map. He just told Abram to go and he would show him where. That sounds hard, doesn't it, Sue? But God also made a covenant with Abram. A covenant is God's unbreakable promise. Let's read about that in Genesis 12, verses 2 through 3. "And I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed." This was more than just a promise about land or a big family. It was a part of God's bigger plan. God was promising that one day someone would come from Abram's family that would bless the whole world. That someone is Jesus. From Abram's family came the nation of Israel, and many years later, Jesus was born from that family line. So what did Abram do? Did he argue with God and say, "No, thanks, I like it here"? Let's read about what he did in Genesis 12, verse 4. "So Abram went as the Lord had told him. Abram believed God's promise and obeyed. He took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, and all his belongings, and he set out. When he got to the land of Canaan, God spoke to him." Let's read about that in Genesis 12, verse 7. "Then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, 'To your offspring I will give this land.' So he built there an altar to the Lord who had appeared to him." Offspring means children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. At the time, Abram didn't have any children though, Sue. And for many years after that, he still didn't have any children. By now, Abram was a very old man. God appeared to Abram again to remind him of his special promise. He changed Abram's name to Abraham, which means father of nations. He changed Sarai's name to Sarah, which means princess. God told Abraham that he would have a son who would be called Isaac. This seemed impossible since he and Sarah were old. When Sarah laughed in her heart at that news, let's read what God told her. Let's read Genesis 18, verse 14. Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the appointed time, I will return to you about this time next year, and Sarah shall have a son. Abraham did have a son, Sue, just as God said. When Isaac was a boy, God asked Abraham to do something very hard. God told Abraham to offer Isaac on an altar. Abraham didn't understand, but he chose to obey. He trusted God. Isaac carried the wood as they went up the mountain where the altar was. Then Abraham placed the wood on the altar and his son Isaac on top. As he was about to offer Isaac, God said, "Abraham, Abraham," and he said, "Here I am." He said, "Do not lay your hand on the boy or do anything to him, for now I know that you fear God, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me." And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him was a ram, caught in a thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called the name of that place, "The Lord Will Provide." This story gives us a hint about something that would happen later. God's only son, Jesus, would carry a wooden cross up a hill. The ram that God provided instead of Isaac shows us that Jesus would take our place and die for us one day because he loves us. God's call to Abram was the beginning of his covenant, a promise that pointed forward to a new covenant in Jesus Christ. Just like Abram trusted God's word without knowing all the details, we can trust God's promise that everyone who believes in Jesus will be saved. Abraham's story shows us that real faith means believing what God says and living like it's true. Well, thank you so much for joining us here in the Bible classroom today. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.